Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Miranda and this is going to be my monthly reading wrap-up. First and foremost, apologies if you can hear the air conditioning unit. The day that I am filming right now, it is 109 degrees outside and my apartment is still pretty super warm, so I'm keeping it on. On top of that, this is going to be a little bit of a different way of me doing my wrap-ups. Because of the book buying ban that I have currently placed on myself for many different reasons. I have been utilizing my library like a ton, as in I currently have almost 30 books checked out or on hold. So because of that, and because they have different renewal dates because of when I was able to pick up certain items after their holds, I decided I didn't want to wait until the end of the month to film my entire wrap-up video. Partially because that means I would have to renew things that I've already finished reading, potentially keeping them from other people in the library system who are wanting to read them for longer. And then that just kind of adds a little bit more clutter to my home. And I know y'all can't really see it right now, but there's a lot of clutter because we have once again rearranged. So yeah, what I think I'm going to do from now on, especially since I'm utilizing the library so much, is I am going to essentially film my sorry, one of the cats is being really cute. I'm going to be filming my wrap up as I finish each book. So it's going to be kind of like a vlog style wrap-up video, but I will still post it at the end of each month or the beginning of the next month, and then talk about what I hope to be reading the month after that. So I hope that this works. I hope that it's fun. It's probably going to be a little bit easier on me to not have to stress about making this one big video and remember everything, and then that way the details are still a little bit fresher in my mind as well. So hopefully that dynamic just works out for me a bit better. So with that, we will just get right into it. Last month, I had talked about reading the first 3 volumes of Paper Girls. I still have volume 3. I kept that to kind of reference back if I needed it, but I finished 4, 5, and 6. Paper Girls as a series is only 6 of these volumes long, so it's a fairly short one, but I thought it was really good. I think I gave it consistently like 4 stars. Of course, there was still some language use that I wasn't very happy with, but overall, it is a story about these 4 girls who meet what they call Hell Night, which is the morning after Halloween, so technically the morning of November 1st. They kind of stick together because there's people out there acting fools, being rude, being kind of violent, and they stick together, and from there have this series of events that happen to them that takes them through time travel. It takes them to the past, it takes them to the future, it takes them to the close future. They meet future versions of themselves. They kind of learn about their fates in some ways, and overall they just kind of essentially are very critical to the challenge of an invention of space travel and also the eventual peace that happens in the world. I won't go into too much detail because again, it's a really short series. I feel like if I go into detail, I'm going to be spoiling too many things, and I don't want to. I thought it was good. It was really cute. Again, you can tell it was written by men in the way it handles some of the stuff that's very feminine focused, but it's actually not the worst. So yeah, I would definitely recommend giving it a read. It's pretty cute. It's very confusing until like the 3rd volume, just because of the nature of time travel and all these different pieces and timelines kind of connecting. But once you get to like the 3rd volume, things start to make a lot more sense. But yeah, Paper Girls, I gave it consistently like an overall 4-star rating. After that, I kept up with the graphic novels because for the beginning of the month, I wasn't really too interested in reading too much. I was definitely having more of a slump in my mental health and a slump in reading, so graphic novels were easier to read. So this is On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. This follows a girl named Mia at 2 different times in her life. The first is when she's at this kind of boarding school. Everything's in space. This is a very sci-fi series, but this planet that's essentially a boarding school where she meets Grace, who she falls in love with. And then it also follows her later as an adult after graduating, where she takes this job with a reconstruction team that goes to different planets and places and reconstructs old buildings so that they can then either be occupied, used as museums, things like that. So it follows 2 different timelines, and eventually the timelines connect. It tells the love story of Mia and Grace. It tells the stories of the other people on the team, and let me just tell you, Elliot, my baby, they need to be protected at all costs. And eventually these 2 timelines connect and bring Mia and Grace back together. It was really cute, kind of contemplative, and the art is really interesting. Like, it's very not exactly monochromatic because it's not just one color, but it's a very limited color palette, and it just kind of adds to the mood of it, I believe, the color choices. The art's cute, the storyline's really cute, very sapphic. I believe most of the women in here are sapphic to some degree. And yeah, 5 stars. I would definitely give this a read. It's about 500 or 600 pages, 540-ish, but it is a graphic novel, so it reads really quickly, and it's just like super cute. And even though it's contemplative, it is also light in some areas, a little bit heavier in some others. And yeah, this one was definitely a 5-star favorite read, and I think a favorite graphic novel. It was just really cute. So after that, I read The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nevo. This is a novella, and it has a companion novella, which is on hold. I should be able to pick it up today. And I believe there's a 3rd book in the series being published soon. But essentially it follows Chi, who is like a historian of both the past and the present, a recorder of history, who goes around to places and takes down everything about the place itself, the stories of the people there, things like that. So it's basically like the memories and the heart of places, is essentially what the people in Chi's faction do. So Chi, while she is on her way to the Emperor's place for this celebration and event, hears about this place called Lake Scarlet, which has been placed under a kind of a ban. So there's been this magical ban on it, so people can't go there. And essentially this place is where Empress Ino was exiled after her marriage and to the current emperor. She gave birth to a son, and she was exiled here because it was definitely a marriage of political need. She was from the north, married the emperor kind of as an alliance. And she was exiled. Her and her handmaid Rabbit went to this little kind of cottage manor on this lake, and it describes Rabbit's life there. Chi meets Rabbit while she's there and just listens to Rabbit's stories about how Ino came to the palace with the emperor, her life there, and then eventually their life in the exiled manor, and how actually she planned a rebellion and takeover from the palace. So it was really interesting. There are still things that I wish had clarification, but I will probably get that in the next one. I believe I gave it a 4-star as well. I really liked the characters. I just wanted to know a bit more than I could get out of a novella format, so I hope that the second one like kind of clears things up. But it's really interesting to see it from not the Empress's point of view, but like her handmaid's point of view, and hear the stories of her life, so you kind of get like a little bit of the political intrigue, but like once removed. So definitely like a quick and easy read. I think I read this in 1 day, which is fairly quick considering how my reading pattern has been going this month. But yeah, I hope to read the next one soon. Maybe that'll be in this update, maybe it'll be in next month's update. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. The latest one that I've read is Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Barron. This follows Sophia, a girl in a society where Cinderella's tale is taken very, very seriously. Every year there is a ball, and women of a certain age, between 16 and 18, attend the ball, and they have 3 balls, so 16, 17, 18 to attend. And if a man does not choose them to wed at that ball, they are considered forfeit and essentially shunned from society. It's a very misogynistic society. And Sophia is sapphic. She does not want to marry. She does not want a husband. She wants to stay with her best friend Aaron, who she has this romance with. But Aaron wants to follow the rules and stay safe, because essentially the actions of Sophia and Aaron can also harm their families as well. I gave this like a 3.5 star. It had potential, but I had several issues with it. Firstly, the insta romance. Sophia is sort of mourning the loss of Aaron because they have this big argument right before the ball. And as Sophia tries to escape the ball, she meets Constance, who is the main love interest, and like she's instantly horny for her, like whatever. Again, this is something that I kind of complain about in every single YA I ever read, but in this one it just seemed even more so, because here's this stranger telling you how to escape and you're just like instantly horny for them and don't really think things through, in my opinion. I also had issues with Sophia's character herself. Like, she's definitely selfish. She wants like her parents to support her and all this stuff, but I don't think she ever takes into consideration the danger she's putting her parents into by kind of demanding that they support her, not wanting to go to the ball, not wanting to get married, because there's definitely a danger to her parents too, and her parents understand Sophia doesn't want this, but at the same time they're doing their best to protect Sophia and doing what they think is all that they can to keep her safe. So I definitely kind of see Sophia as being a little bit selfish in that regard, and like essentially accusing her parents of not wanting her to be happy when they're really doing their best to keep her safe in this society where they very much could be killed for not falling in line. Other than that, the plot was really predictable, extremely so. You don't really get much out of the characters. Like, you don't really get much out of Constance, except like she's kind of a badass and she makes Sophia horny and they're automatically in love and shit like that. Amina, the witch that the fairy godmother essentially from the original Cinderella tale, she just kind of gives into things very easily. She's supposed to be this stubborn old lady, blah blah blah, and it kind of makes sense later why Amina makes certain choices, but it seems like things just happen too easily. They happen very, very conveniently. It's like one thing after the other, and everything just sort of falls in line. It seems like there's no real struggle. Technically it's supposed to be very dangerous for Sophia and Constance to be doing this, but you don't really feel like the stakes are very high. I felt like this book could have just used a lot of development to really get across not only the characters themselves, because again they just kind of feel really flat and one-dimensional, but the plot itself, it could have used development. I would have liked to know more about the magic. This definitely could have benefited from either being a longer book or being split into 2 books so that things could be developed more and you get the stakes and you get characters' personalities and you get actual character development, because yeah, it just, everything just felt super predictable. The current king being the original Prince Charming, the way he managed to stay alive for 200 years, like all of that was just very predictable. Like as you're reading, like you knew what was gonna happen, and that kind of sucks because I had really high hopes for this. I went in thinking, man, this is gonna be super cool, and it could have been. It had a lot of potential. The premise was really interesting. Yeah, it just kind of fell flat. It was one of those where like, oh, this society sucks, and you just get several repeated instances of misogyny and like that's it. So yeah, it could have used some more development in my opinion. Not that it was necessarily bad. It definitely wasn't the worst book I've read. But yeah, I wish it had more development to it and we got more out of each individual character, we got more out of the plot, and we got more out of the world itself. But yeah, that's where I'm at so far, and I will see you hopefully in a couple days with another update. So welcome back to my book updates. I have a couple more I need to talk about. First is When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Nevo. This is a continuation of the Singing Hills cycle where Chi, a scholar and novitiate of the Singing Hills Monastery, goes around and collects stories and information on things. And this one they are attempting to get to a particular place and are enlisting the help of a mammoth rider to get there. And along the way, they notice 3 tigers stalking them who have attacked the person at the way station that they are stopping at. They get into a little bit of a fight, but essentially they settle down and Chi tries to pass the time until help can come and save them, essentially by telling them a story. And I won't go into many details about the story, but the tigers, it is a story that the tigers know, and it is about another tiger, and these tigers can like shapeshift into women. So Chi is telling the story, and the tigers are correcting the story as they go along with what they say is the true version. And it was really interesting, really good. I am interested to see where all these like novella collections go, if there's any particular direction that they're being taken into, because so far this series has just been 2 different situations where you just get the history of it. And while it's really interesting, I do hope that there's like kind of a direction that we're being taken. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I believe I gave it a 4 stars. Very quick and easy read. Read it in like one evening. The second book that I've finished so far is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This follows 2 different timelines. The first being around 1902 and about a decade or so earlier than that, following this very popular book that was published by Mary McLean and the effects it had on a bunch of girls and women at this particular all-female boarding school. And then it also follows a modern day timeline of these 3 women who I believe are all queer to some extent, either technically lesbian, bisexual, like that, as they go about producing a movie based on this, because one of the 3 characters from the modern timeline wrote a book about what happened in the 1902 timeline. I believe this is supposed to be like a horror or a thriller. I kind of tend to have an issue with horrors and thrillers where I don't actually feel like scared. I just get interested. It was very atmospheric though. Very good. I really liked it. Like it can be a little bit slow at times, and it is like 600 pages. But the stories were really compelling. I really liked the jumping back and forth between the 2 different timelines. I think it worked really well, and both timelines had enough to make them interesting in and of themselves. All the characters were relatable in some way or other, or at least compelling, and the only issue I really have is that it feels like there were jumps in the book that just kind of... mostly in the modern timeline, when they're filming, it would just jump several months ahead or like a year ahead or whatever, and it just felt like there were things kind of missing from the modern timeline story that I would have liked to see more of. But the main focus is kind of the 1902 timeline, and that one is very well done and very complete and very creepy. So if you want something kind of creepy, it's not necessarily a murder mystery, but is a little bit horror-ish, I would definitely go ahead and read it. It is very weird, and I really liked it. I think I gave this like a 4.5 stars. And then the other 2 books I have to talk about are ones that I am DNFing. So right now I'm DNFing How the Multiverse Got Its Revenge. This is the sequel to How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse by Kate Eason. I'm just not feeling drawn to it at this moment. I got about, 50 pages into it. And it's definitely very different from the first book, and it's just not holding my attention. I do want to eventually read it sometime, but at the moment I just have like 20 other books from the library that I need to focus on. So I'm just going to return this for now and get to it later. The second is Persephone Station by Stina Liked. This I tried really hard because it follows a bunch of women and non-binary folk in space. It's basically supposed to be a space opera. It's supposed to be very character driven, but I feel like I got about 50% of the way in, and I feel like there's just a lot about the characters that you don't actually know, that they keep referencing to, but you don't have the details to. The plot, it seems like there's a lot of info dumping, but at the same time, you're not getting the information you need. And I don't know, it just kind of seems like it's a very fast-paced plot, but at the same time, it still seems like there's not much happening. It's a very weird in why it's not drawing me in, and I really wanted to like it. Like, I should have, in theory, liked this. On top of that, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be like an adult fiction or adult sci-fi. All of the characters are in like their 30s and 40s, but it kind of reads like a YA. Thankfully without the romance trouble though. So I might try to go back to this eventually, but same deal. I have so many books checked out from the library right now. I need to return some and focus on the others. So hopefully, you know, maybe I'll do a giving DNF'd books a second chance. I've been keeping a list of the books that I've DNF'd so far, which thankfully there's not too many. And maybe I'll go back to them and see if my feelings on them change. I just did my whole review for this and then realized I was not recording. So I just read Bunny by Mona Awad. I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. It was really creepy, really atmospheric. I probably said this before, but I don't tend to get freaked out or scared from books. They're supposed to be like horror or thrillers or creepy or things like that. I tend to need like the visual aspect and like the soundtrack and everything going to like really like be scared like that. But this was like creepy, like in a way where I wanted to keep reading it. It was also very confusing. Like, you're in the mind of Samantha, our protagonist, who essentially it feels like she's going insane, and she probably is, because she ends up involved with this cult like group of girls who are the only other girls in her literature group at this very exclusive master's writing program. And they all call each other Bunny. They act very like childlike. They are very expressive and affectionate with each other and constantly clinging to each other and hugging each other and telling each other they love each other. Very complimentive. And Samantha's always kind of had like ill feelings toward them because she thinks that they're very fake. She thinks that they hate her and she hates them. But after being invited to one of their like get-together nights, she kind of gets involved with them and things devolve from there. And it's just weird. I read Plain Bound Heroines and I gave the update on that this morning, even though I finished it several days ago. But that one I had been kind of reading at a slow pace for a while just because it was so long and a little bit slow. But it just kind of put me in the mood for this like dark academia type, which is kind of why I picked up Bunny. And also because Cody from Cody's Book Corner was really into it. And so I also picked up Catherine House today. So I think now that I'm done with this, I'm going to start Catherine House or Ring Shout next before diving into some of the series that I picked up from the library. So hopefully I will have a couple more updates for you before the end of the month. But yeah, that is a very brief feelings and thoughts and synopsis on Bunny, which, yeah, 4.5 stars. Really creepy, really confusing, but in a really good way. I need to get better at like reviewing and summarizing stuff, but yeah, it was very... This one I actually felt more of the atmosphere in the book than I did in some other things that I read. So yeah, I would definitely give it a read. So welcome back. The potentially last book of June is Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark. This follows Maurice, a black woman in 1922, who 7 years after the death of her family at the hands of Ku Klux Klan members, she is in Macomb and fighting monsters, essentially, that disguise themselves as Ku Klux Klan members. Essentially, there are these things that infect the Klan members and feed on their hate and turn them into monsters. And most people can't see or tell that they're monsters, but there are some people who have a sight that can see through kind of the disguise and the magic and can tell that the human Klan members from the monster Klan members, and her squad of, actually it's all women in this, fighting the monsters. They go around fighting them, trying to purge their local area of these monsters, And as Maurice goes, she has this sword that was made, essentially it was made by a man who had been part of the slave trade in Africa. He had been capturing and selling people in his own country or kingdom and selling them, and then eventually he too was captured and sold. So in retribution, he was allowed to be a blacksmith when he was enslaved, and he made this sword, and he bound to it his own soul and the souls of those who took part in the slave trade. And so Maurice is able to call upon the souls of the passed away enslaved people and use that to bring about this sword. So it's kind of magical, like it can come in and out of existence. And she uses it and the powerful chanting and songs of those souls to help her fight these monsters and essentially, try to clear her area of this threat. It sounds like there are other places throughout the country that are doing similar things. And essentially there comes a larger threat that is controlling these Ku Klux monsters, and Maurice has to go on an adventure, not necessarily an adventure, but she has to figure out a way to stop it. And along the way she kind of does some of her own healing as well, or confronts some of the things that she's done and seen in her life and some of the things that have hurt her the most. And I believe this is technically horror. It was very good. I believe this is technically horror. And I think it's speculative fiction is also what it's described as. But it was really cool, really good. I liked the imagination of P. Djeli Clark. I liked because it does draw on like folklore of enslaved persons and African folklore, and the songs and chants that they used to communicate with each other or relay messages to each other. It draws on those. It draws on a whole bunch of stuff, essentially to describe these monsters, which were super creepy. I've read a little bit of horror before and not really like cared much, but this actually was like creepy, and just the way they're described, the writing style was really good. So I gave this 4.5 stars, though I'm thinking I might bump it to 5 stars. It's just that horror's not like a main category for me, and while I did like the story, I don't think it's something that's gonna sit in my feelings too much. But yeah, definitely if you like horror, if you like speculative fiction, if you like shorter novels, this would be a really good one. It's only 180 pages, and while like it does seem that there could be a setup for more to come, and I would love to see more to come, it is pretty much well contained into one novella, which I like, because usually with novellas or shorter books I tend to still have questions or feel like things weren't developed, but this did not suffer from any of that. So hopefully I'll still have one more book update for you by the end of the month here in a couple of days, but if not, I'll see you in the next one. Look at you, Ida. Ida. So the last book of this month is The Tangleroot Palace by Marjorie Liu. This is a collection of Hi, Ida, can I help you? It's a collection of short stories and a novella that were all written by Marjorie Liu over the past several years. They're kind of older ones that she collected together into this little book. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. I gave it a 4.5 stars. There are a lot of different stories in these. Some are like fairy tale retellings or using fairy tale elements. One of them plays with like superhero tropes. One of them is a very sapphic kind of like Sleeping Beauty retelling, sort of. And then the novella at the end is about a princess who goes on a journey to find a way to keep herself from having to be put into an arranged marriage. I give it a 4.5 stars just because like I really wanted more time in each world. Marjorie Liu is so descriptive and imaginative, and everything just feels so rich and magical that I just wanted to spend more time in each world because it just seemed so interesting, and I wanted more from all the characters, and I wanted more from every world, and I just wanted more. I would definitely give this a try. if you come across it. Again, quick and easy read. It's about 233 pages, and it has like 6 or 7 different short stories / novellas in this. So yeah, 4.5 stars. Didn't quite hit 5 because I just felt a little bit emotionally disconnected with how quickly everything went through, because of course they're short stories. But yeah, that is the last book at the month. That puts me at 60 total books and graphic novels for the year. Most of this month was about 4-star rating, so it was pretty good. And next month I hope to read things like The Empire of Sand and Realm of Ash by Tasha Suri. Get started on the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I think I have The Rage of Dragons and the sequel to that checked out from the library as well, and a couple other things. So hopefully you've enjoyed this kind of more vloggy, updatey style. If you do, let me know down below. Go ahead, comment, like, subscribe. Let's talk about these books that I've read or any suggestions you might have for me, and I will see you later on in the month. Bye!